Yeah, if you look at the question, in what ratio must 51 be decreased to become 34? 34 ratio 51 will be the approach because the new number is 34. So that will be written first. The original number is 51. That will be written next, as we did in the first example. So you look for a common factor, that's the highest common factor, which is 17. You divide both of them by 17. 17 34 will give us 2. 17 and 51 will give us 3. Then when you divide this, you get 2 ratio 3. If you want to check this to know whether you are right or wrong, let's say you do the same thing we did the other time. The given number is 51. Check. 51 times. Then you write this ratio you got in form of a fraction. That will be 2 over 3. 3 here 1, 3 here 17. 2 times 17, 17 times 2 will give us 34, which is the new number we are interested in. So you can see there is no confusion here. Let's have a look at another example on ratio. Now, this is another example on ratio. 3 investors are to share a profit of 15,000 naira in the ratio 2, ratio 3, ratio 4, 5. How much will each get? What they are telling us here is that there is a sum of 15,000 naira to be shared among 3 people. And we want to use the ratio 2, ratio 3, ratio 5 to know how much will go to each of the investors. Ratio 2, 3, 5 represent the ratio of their shares. That means 2 is not actually the share, but the ratio value of that share. So there are 2 ways to solve a question like this. The general way solution. First step, add the ratio. That's the first step. In a general manner, that will be 2 plus 3 plus 5. That will give us 10. Now, second step. Divide the profit by the total ratio. That means the profit they are to share, which is 15,000 naira, should be divided by the sum of the ratio. And the sum of the ratio is 10. So what do? What we get here will now be 15,000 over 10. And that will give us 1,500. Now, this 1,500 will be used to find how much share that will go to each of the investors. So, ratio 2 or share 2 we now get 2 times 1,500. That will give us 3,000 naira. The investor with ratio 3 with share of ratio 3 we get 3 times 1,500. That will be 4,500. While the investor with share ratio 5 will get 5 times 1,500, and that is 7,500 naira. So at the end of the day, by the time you had this, and this, you get that 15,000 naira back. That is just it. Yeah. All right. Alternatively, we can say, we can do it this way. Alternative method. We are given the share ratio to be 2:3:5. Like I said the other time, there must be a common factor. It means that before they arrive at this 2:3:5, a particular common factor must have been used to divide the original share to get 2, 3, and 5. Let me come again. Before the questionnaire arrived at 2:3:5 share, it shows that there is a value which is a common factor and is the highest common factor to the shares that go to all these 3 investors. So, and that particular factor must have been used to divide the original share gotten by each of the investors to arrive at 2, 3, and 5. And since we don't know what factor is, we don't know the value of that highest common factor. In mathematics, it is allowed to use a variable to represent an unknown. Our unknown here is the common factor used to arrive at 2, 3, 5. So let the common factor be x. I may call it divisor because it must have been used to divide the original value of the share to arrive at 2, 3, and 5. So let the common factor or the common divisor be x. So definitely if I use 2 to divide 6, I get 3, right? So also, if I want to get my 6 back, what do? I will use that same 2 to multiply 3 to get 6. Let me come again. I use 2 to divide 6 to get 3. To get that 6 back, all I need to do is to reverse the operation. instead of division, I will use multiplication. So I will now use that to multiply 3 to get that 6 by. So since X is a divisor used to divide the original share of each of the investors, then I will use that same X to multiply each of these to get their original value. Therefore, I'm going to have multiply through by X. So I'm going to have 2X ratio 3X ratio 5X. So by adding these together now, this must be equals to the total amount shared. So 2X plus 3X plus 5X will give me 15,000. Because I have already made this to be the actual value each of them got. So 2X is the actual value for the first investor, 3X is the actual value of share that goes to the second investor, 5X is the actual value or the amount that goes to the third investor. So when you add all the shares together, it must amount to the profit shared, which is 15,000. So 2X plus 3X plus 5X will give me 10X, which equals 15,000. Divide both sides by 10, X will be equals to 1,500. That means 1,500 naira will be used to multiply each ratio to get the actual profit, the actual share of the profit that goes to individual. Therefore, share 2 we get 2 times 1,500, which is 3,000, because 2 times X is now being replaced with 1,500. Share 3 will be 3 times 1,500, and that is 4,500. Share 5 will be 5 times 1,500, and that will be 7,500. So it now depends on which one is easier for you to understand that you pick from and you master. So this is for you. Now try this. All right. I'm going to the next topic under volume 1, which is proportion. Proportion. I'm going to just introduce what proportion is today. In the next class, in the next video clip, we are going to say, we are going to trash out everything about proportion. But today, I'm going to introduce to you proportion. When we say proportion, in a layman language, it means accordingly, and is used in conjunction with the ratio. There are two types of proportion. We have direct proportion and we have indirect proportion. Now, when we say direct proportion, what does this really mean? It means that when there are two quantities or two things in consideration, and the effect or whatever is happening to one is an influence on the other, such that if the first is increasing, the other also must increase. And if the first is decreasing, the other also must decrease. Such a proportion is termed direct proportion. Direct proportion. Now, indirect proportion, what does that mean? It means when there are two things in consideration and increase in one causes decrease in the other. Look at that. Increase in one causes decrease in the other, or decrease in one causes increase in the other. Then such a proportion is indirect proportion. Let me just give one example of each before I round up for today. Direct proportion, for example, if an item, like 3 items are bought, let's say, for a certain amount of money. If somebody now wants to buy the same items, but increasing the number of items, such as maybe 5 or 7 now, instead of buying 3, he wants to buy 5 or 7. We don't expect the buyer to pay the same amount that the other person who bought 3 paid. Why? Because since there is increase in the number of items to be bought, then there must be increase in the what? In the price. That means somebody buying 5 will pay more than somebody buying 3. That is direct proportion. Increase. And if the first person buys 5 and the other person buys 2, definitely the other person who buys 2 will pay less than the person who buys 5. That is direct proportion. In indirect proportion, it has to do with increase in one leads to decrease in the other. For example, if 3 guys can do a particular work, a particular task in just, let's say, in 5 days. 3 people can complete a particular task in 5 days. If now 2 people are to now handle the same task, we don't expect 2 people to complete that same task in 5 days. That is took 3 people. Why? Because the more labor you have, the less time spent. That means 2 people will spend more time than 3 people. You can see that when we decrease the number of people from 3 to 2, the period of time taken to complete the task increases from where? From 5 to a higher number of days. So that is an example of indirect proportion. So next class, we shall continue from where we stop today, proportion. Thank you.